keep the negativity out of your head. If you are on the journey to really help change this nation, the world, your local community, there's going to be resistance, obstacles, challenges. There are going to be naysayers and folks who are going to try to put up roadblocks, say things, misrepresent, and you have to keep the negativity out of your head. And so that would be my first advice on this journey.
Welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. And this is your host, Coach Charlene. And I'm extremely excited to hear about Dr. Taylor today. I have a wonderful guest on the show today. She has a powerful bio. I'm actually going to put it in her introduction when I drop it in her podcast so you can read a little bit more about Dr. Taylor. So Dr. Taylor, tell us who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Coach Charlene. It's an honor to be here. Very excited to kind of just share and my story, talk a little bit about education. So I always start with, I'm from, Southern California, but I'm raised Southern. My mother, was part of the Great Migration out of the South. I don't know. Some of you have heard of Isabel Wilkerson's A Warrant of Other Sons.
Yes.
And so she was part of that second wave where she moved from Mississippi, Memphis area, and landed in California, like so many other African Americans at that time. And whether it was California, New York, or other larger metropolitan cities and towns, and landed in Inglewood, California. So I'm from Inglewood.
Wow. Yeah.
And, and sort of our journey, I guess, as a family starts there, and her journey starts there as well. And she was always an advocate for education and made sure that her children had took full advantage of that and those opportunities. And so as so many African Americans, when you learn about the Great Migration, the challenges, the obstacles, the joy, things that have occurred, she found herself being an older adult, going back to school, and went to a community college. And so my mother went to a community college and where she became a nurse. And so she served as a nurse for 23 years at Kaiser Permanente in Hollywood Sunset. So I start there because my mom really shaped my world, my lens, my perspective. And, it's very nice to say I'm a Southerner, but I'm from SoCal.
I know. Hey, that's a mix there.
Very much a mix. And even so much, my mother loved the ocean. And so we were constantly, and for those who know towns like El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, Redondo Beach, things of those nature, but we were very much in the beach towns a lot as well. So journey starts there with her. Myself, I attended the community college, went through the Cal State University system as well as private, went to Claremont, graduate for my PhD in education. I started off my career as a psychology faculty. So I have a degree in counseling and my disciplines, both psychology and counseling. I did that for some time. And then I found myself interested in doing more administrative work and policy work. In particular, how do we begin to really look at those populations who are doing well and well-resourced and those who are not, usually people of color, and wanted to pursue a degree, get a doctorate degree in education. So after that, I was looking for more administrative. I transitioned up to Northern California, where I've been in the San Mateo County Community College District for, almost 12 years now. So definitely been in education for over 22 years, have mixed experience, both community college and California State, 4-year university experience. And did a variety of roles. So that's just a little bit about me. I know we're going to get into it, but
hey, that is not just a little bit. That is a lot. That is wonderful. I'm curious, as you were talking about your journey, did you have any challenges going to school, or was it already kind of spelled out for you?
Absolutely. No, a lot. Definitely a lot of challenges. It's interesting you mentioned that. My mom, I always say she experimented with my education. What I mean by that is that I found myself in schools outside of my district, my neighborhood schools. And so whether they be private or public, and I found myself actually being integrated in schools that were predominantly white institutions. And so she put a lot of energy and a lot of sacrifice she made for my education in particular, whether it be through commuting or whatnot, or trying to figure out how she would navigate one of her children going to a school outside of their neighborhood, right? And so school has always been very important. So she's definitely had me on this track of wanting me to be a doctor. And medicine's awesome. She's wonderful, but it wasn't my field. And so I did get a doctor. I'm a doctorate. You have a doctorate degree. I'm still a doctor, but not the route that she had preferred. And so, I was always very, spiritual, very interested in ministry. And I found myself at the community college, very brilliant, but just kind of lost and not as focused. And so I struggled at the community college, really trying to find my sense of purpose and direction. And so people don't believe me, but I actually I was on academic probation. Believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know, no one believes it. But I was, and not because I didn't have the brilliance, just because I wasn't focused as I needed to. And so I found myself having to I stayed a little longer at community college and having to repeat classes. But once I got on board, I was good. I got a bachelor's degree in less than a year and a half. I got a master's degree in 2 years. And then I got a PhD in 5 years. And if you know anything about a PhD or doctorate program, 5 years is pretty impressive, because sometimes it can take 7 years or longer. So I did. I navigated those challenges of being trying to figure out like income level and just, how to pay for college and trying to be independent and navigating that transition of a 2-year to a 4-year. So I definitely experienced all that, but just really identity and feeling kind of lost and trying to figure out my place as an African-American woman and not seeing myself there a lot, right? And not being defined by those stereotypes of the misrepresentation out there. So some challenges for sure. And I love to share with students so I can help them along their journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was thinking about, because I know there's a lot of younger people out there now, and they're in the same place. They're trying to navigate and really find who they are, and then not having the resources. So of course you're concerned and you're worried and you're not sure how you're going to make it. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing that for us. Dr. Taylor, I started this podcast in July of last year because in 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, I felt this sense of speaking up like I've never spoke up before. I was very quiet before. I had seen different things happening, but I could not find my voice, to be honest. And so, I'm a spiritual person, so I was really broken and just really challenged with what had happened and what we physically saw. That I went into prayer, and then I heard these words like, what you do in this moment will determine your destiny and dictate your future. And so I had to move from anguish to action. And so I began to start speaking up like never before. And that's what I feel had caught me into starting to really be in those very uncomfortable conversations, because I was kind of sort of like the only one in the room to be able to say something about it. So with that being said, when the moment chooses you, I do think that there's times that you're chosen. And I'm just wondering, because I'm reading your bio, and you're like the first African-American that actually led the university. So tell us a little bit more about that. What do you think?
Yeah, it's lately. So I'm going to talk about a couple moments. Folks have been asking me, talk to me about your journey. Talk to me about your road to the presidency, as if it was just so laid out. I don't even know how to respond to that, but I understand what they're saying, but it definitely wasn't just sort of right. I didn't wake up one morning and say, this is my road, but I do appreciate, because you can imagine, obviously, being a little Black girl in a predominantly white institution, the lessons that teaches you as well, right? And so I understand my journey now and some of those early experiences as well. And I also understand when I really found my voice and understood those voices that were being left out. So I'll talk a little bit from that perspective. One moment in particular is when I was an undergraduate and I was working at Cal State LA. I went to Cal State University, Los Angeles, to get a psychology degree. And I was working at EOP, Education Opportunities Programs, that serves predominantly students of color and offers a wide range of resources. At that time, I believe it was about 2000, I was a peer tutor, actually. So I was part of the program and I was doing some peer tutoring. And at that time, there was an executive order 665, which stated basically that students had 2 semesters to finish sort of remedial kind of math and English courses. And if they did not finish in 2 semesters or that year, then they would be asked to leave. So stopped out, right? And so this executive Order 665 largely impacted, of course, who? Students of color. And I remember the director at the time inviting me, it was one of those things where it's always a grassroots efforts, right? And sometimes those voices that are the most powerful maybe are not in the most powerful position. And so I was around these, what I would call these sort of these leaders, these advocates, these folks who were just in the work, who cared so much. I'd be listening to they seemed like they were organizing in some ways, and they were, and I was invited to the meeting. And they're like, do you know what's going on? And I'm like, no, what's happening? And they started to talk to me a little bit about the impact that could have on students of color and what we needed to do as an organization. And so that was pivotal in my journey in understanding, first of all, advocacy and organizing, and how to kind of have a solid united front in an institution where you are not hardly considered, sort of invisible still. It's like these services are there because the institution wants to say they have these services for students of color, but when it comes to our value and our opinion, it's not as maybe relevant, right? And so I think you understand. So it was at that moment that I understood the importance of my voice and the importance of advocacy. And that has sort of stayed with me, and understanding that I need to speak, I need to be present and affirm voices that may not have that opportunity. And I need to leverage my power of influence for the purpose of not myself, but for others and for this nation, and to really improve generations. And that has really stayed with me. And when I think of this journey of being I've been the first a lot, right? First in the doctorate, first and only in the family, in my large family, first and only to have a doctorate degree. I mean, that impact, right? My mother is one of 9, the oldest of 9. So you can imagine, cousins and aunties, right? And so that is huge alone. And so this kind of first, I've become not I would normalize it, but I'm used to it. I know how to navigate those challenges, and probably stand when others might want to sit, and continue to stand when others want to give up and leave. I have a spirit in me, as my grandmother said. You have a spirit, child. You know what I mean by that?
Yes. Yes, I do.
All my siblings, she was like, it's in you. So, world be damned, right?
Yeah.
So of that, and I do feel like I have resilience and courageousness and faith.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I have a purpose and a calling that is beyond, it's not about me, but it's about humanity. And so that moment in time, and then my journey, having to stand on my own, as my mom wanted me to have the best opportunity education-wise, being this 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old girl, trying to figure out and navigate that world alone, I think totally has given me the skills to be at an institution where I'm the third woman and the first educator of color, right? And so I'm beginning it's crystallizing to me more and more, understanding that journey. So
that's really powerful. I'm just wondering, did you have any mentors or anything like that you can look up to?
Absolutely. Well, my mother, I guess I am from the Charles Barkley camp. Remember when he said that one time about mentors?
Yes, he did.
And he was a little bit negative, so I'm not going to go there. But he was trying to say, you have parents, I'm no one's mentors. He was trying to get the attention away from himself. But for me, my grandmother is turned 93. And so she's really significant for me. And my mother, of course, are for sure my mentors. But then I've had wonderful educators, male and female, of all ethnicities, come and just really guide me and show me the way, with various spiritual, religious, backgrounds and beliefs. And so that's been a really amazing. I felt like in my time of need, I've always had someone to kind of catch me when maybe I'm about to just, not be able to stand on my own for a bit, or just kind of assist me, and, straighten, instead of just help me along that journey. So yes, a lot of educators, who have provided just guidance and care and support, and those who are still in my life, obviously today. Right. One of them in particular, if I can give a shout out, was my counselor, Ken Key, who went to the community college. And there was a moment in my journey at the community college where I was just kind of just lost. And I remember being on academic probation, having to see a counselor, and it was an African-American male. He sat me down and he closed the door, and I was like, uh-oh. And he looked at me, he was like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "You look normal. Like, what's going on? Like, I know you're smart. I know you're brilliant." And actually I credit him for helping me get on the path towards educational attainment. So yes, I've had wonderful women, chancellors, presidents, just key, elected officials who have really just taken me under their wing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm wondering, what would you say your passion, what is your assignment for this life? Do you know your assignment?
I feel like it is really to help those. So I feel my trajectory has really changed since my mother, right? She was able to find a way and really change my life. And so I've been able to change my children's life. So for example, my daughter is in her second year at Caltech, right, in Pasadena, and she's doing mechanical engineering. And so I feel like she has a different path than I had growing up as a child, and a different set of resources. So for me, it's really, how do I contribute to this world, to society, to helping others, other families change their circumstance and have opportunity. And I really fundamentally believe that is my journey. Even when I was heavily involved with ministry, it was about that as well. It was about community, familia, activism. How do we help others and provide voice and provide resources to really level remove structural racism and barriers, but kind of level the playing field for all. And what does it look like, right? And this journey, and having this tenacity and this resilience. And so I do think that's my purpose, to open the door, clear the way, set the path, help people. Find, continue the journey, find the journey, stay strong in that. So,
Yeah, that's wonderful. I was wondering, Dr. Taylor, do you have any personal stories? You've shared with us a few of them, but any ones that can bring self-awareness to our allies in particular?
Yeah. Oh, let me think through that. I'm not sure. Give me a little bit more. What do you mean?
Okay. So for instance, there are certain stories, I'll share stories since we're talking about it. Throughout my journey, I had to encounter a lot of things. I'm a nurse also, so I'm like your mom. I'm a nurse leader now. But what was very interesting is on my journey, there was some very grueling challenges that I had to face. Like, for instance, I took care of this one patient. I cleaned her up. She was going to see her family for the first time. I was fixing her hair. She's a Caucasian woman. And then she grabbed my hands, my wrist. I still forget. I can still feel her fingernails. And she said, "Get your hands off of me." And she used the N-word. And so that one side was like, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. And the other side was like my mom, which taught me how to love beyond. So that lesson of loving beyond has stuck with me through this whole journey. And I know how to handle situations when I get in them, where part of me wanted to do the absolute opposite and do something crazy. But my mom put those core values in me to be able to love a person beyond where they are, because I don't know what they're dealing with, but I know I have control over how I feel and how I will not allow anybody to reduce me to something that I'm not. So those kind of stories.
Absolutely. I think probably, I've had many experiences like that. There's one in particular that kind of has helped me on my journey. When I was in 5th grade, I had a teacher by the name of Miss Wickwire, a Jewish woman, who really really showed me you can really care for other people's children. And that's awesome. Had stayed with me. So I had, there was a little boy, Anglo white male, who had called me the N-word. And I was in the room. So you made me think of that. I was in the classroom, and she was like, why aren't you, Jennifer, Jenny, or why aren't you going out playing? I was like, oh, and I looked sad, like I'd been crying. And I shared with her, because to me, she was that ally. And she was that protector, because they always, I'm sure in the house, I was raised as African American, in the house you were safe, but when you exit, you are going to encounter all kind of experiences. And so how do you build up that resistance? How do you stay strong? And so when I had shared that with her, she was deeply hurt. She was emotional. And I swear she reminded me of one of our parents from the South. He must have took that young man and gave him an earful, had him apologize, told his parents, put him in detention or whatever was happening at that time. But she really reprimanded him, and I felt like I was with a Black mama.
I know. That's awesome. That's amazing.
And so I had a really positive experience in that way. And so that really talked to me just about love, and that you really can care about other people's children. And of course, I've had the opposite, right? I've had the daily microaggressions, right? I've had the opportunity, the comments of where you feel like you're substandard, or you're constantly being questioned. And those are, unfortunately, those happen the majority of the time. And so I think for this moment, I wanted to share that nice moment, because I think there's we can do better, and we can care for other people's children like they're our own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. And then I also ask when I'm on the show is 3 different things. Like this is going to be Dr. Taylor's top 3 pearls of wisdom that I would love for you to share.
Okay. So the first thing I think for me is keep the negativity out of your head. If you are on the journey to really help change this nation, the world, your local community, there's going to be resistance, obstacles, challenges. There are going to be naysayers and folks who are going to try to put up roadblocks, say things, misrepresent, and you have to keep the negativity out of your head. And so that would be my first advice on this journey.
I love that.
I think another thing is to be vigilant against typecastings or other expectations. And I learned this very early on. There are folks who want to put you in a box, or my saying is nobody puts. You've seen Dirty Dancing, but no one sits baby in the corner. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to define who you want to be and who you are going to be, and don't let anyone define that for you. And don't let anything define that for you. No paycheck. Right. No job title, nothing. Don't let anything shape and mold who you want to be except for yourself. So that's pretty important for me. You need a third thing would be you need good people around you, a solid group and a network. And that is so important. And that has sustained me. You've got to have good people around you, even if there's 3 good people, even if it's 1. Better to have 1 good person than 100 people. Hey. Exactly. Right?
That's
it's
right.
It's not. And then I do have one more. Stay true to your vision. It's better to try and fail than to sublimate your vision and hold regrets. So just
talk about that a little bit
Yeah,
more.
I think it's easier. Like I said, just stay true. It's better to fail than to have regret. I mean, those moments where you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this. Oh, I wish I would have said this. Oh, I wish I would have fought harder. It's like you said after George Floyd, like you had to have a different, you were a different being after that. Right.
Absolutely.
And no regrets. We'll work it out, and what happens, happens. But that's the life I'm living, and know how to apologize, because you may need to. But stay true to that vision. And that's really, that's the advice I would give. My 4, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what you said something so profound, because it took me back to a situation. I think it was your number 2. And, but there was a time where, I'm leading, and then I had this director. She would always speak for me, because I couldn't speak for myself.
Absolutely.
And every time a question was asked to me, I guess I didn't answer it good enough, so they would come in and say whatever. But it was always this shrink to fit model, making sure you don't go outside of this box here. So that is so profound what you said, because I do know a lot of people, they stay within those confines, that box, but I busted out of the box and I began to start speaking up. So thank you so much for that. That was excellent.
Can I add something? Marianne Williamson has a poem about not dimming your light to don't shrink to make others feel better. And I was doing that as well at one point in along my journey. And I just refused to dim my light anymore.
Me too.
I just refused to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, man, this is so good. I do have one more question for you, and then you can share any other wisdom with us. Now, the last 3 years have been very challenging for everyone. I'm just wondering, what was it? How did you sustain yourself through the crises?
Oh, my goodness. I think... Well, having good people near me, of course, I'm spiritual. So obviously prayer and having time of just meditation. I think I had to, the George Floyd, I'm very close to, obviously, mother and grandmother. Unfortunately, my mother no longer with us. And I was heartbroken when he was calling for his mother.
Yes.
And it's still hard for me, right? Like this grown man is calling for his mother at this moment, right? And so it was so hard to comprehend that, like to even understand such cruelty, such malice, such just evil. I couldn't understand it. And so for me, I had to remember and honor our common humanity and those foundational principles for doing good regardless. Like I had to respond. And growing up where, obviously you have parents and relatives part of the civil rights era, you have to remember those things. What is our common humanity? See the good in people and focus on the basics. I had to focus on the basics. Get out of bed, talk to your family, go to work, appreciate somebody today. Stay faithful, just simple things to kind of get me through until I was somewhat full and whole again. Right. And so, that experience and just so many others, Right. So for me is let's hold on to the common good, our noble purpose. Let's reach for something better than than the previous generation. Let's keep striving and we can get there.
Yes.
And learn how to deal with the pains, cry, journal, do what you need to do to get it out so that it does not stay within. And that's really, really important. And, that it was so interesting that I in my household at the moment, they were so concerned about me in that moment, and that was really awesome to have that, like, oh my goodness, how are we going to help this, this Black woman get through, which was just very, very interesting too. So I don't know, we can talk more about it, but I think for me, the focus was just focusing on our common humanity.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's a great ending point right there. And then I have, if there's anything else you want to share with the audience, I would love for you to share it. And if there's any way people can contact you if they wanted to, that would be awesome. as well.
Absolutely. So I would like to share a couple of things about like when you choose that moment. I want to say sometimes you don't know that the moment is choosing you. So stay open.
Yes.
That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
You don't know. Believe you me, I've not always known. So just stay open. Have trust and, of course, have faith in your abilities and opportunities before you, even in challenging or difficult times. Just hold firm. And then listen before leaping. Listen before leaping. So that's it.
That is powerful.
Yeah, that's advice that I would give. I would love for folks to reach out to me. I'm the president of College of San Mateo. All of my contact information is online. So they can find me that way. Also, of course, my email is mendozaj@smccd.edu. You can feel free to reach out to me there as well.
That's awesome. Now, do you do any speaking engagements and things like that?
I do
Taylor?
as well. Yeah. Okay. So if you're interested, please feel free and we can go from there. And I can also provide personal information to you as well, my other accounts. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so inspired by you and keep on rocking it. I'm excited that I know you now.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you so much, Coach.
Okay.